Okay, Pete, to start this episode off, I'm going to get 3 suggestions from our audience, and you're going to use these suggestions and make up an original song. Are you excited?
Oh, God, it's like musical anxiety Mad Libs.
Okay, so I need a type of animal. I heard elephant. Okay, great. Now, what's a type of job? Any type of job. What? Window washer. Okay, that'll be good. Finally, a type of salad I heard Thousand Island. Okay, Pete, so you've got elephant, window washer, and Thousand Island dressing. Time to make up that 5-minute song and go. I can't. Bye. I'm not doing this. Oh, no, he left. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's just you and me now. Okay, so that didn't make you feel great, I'm sure.
That felt terrible.
No. Of course, yes. Well, under better circumstances than what I just gave you, a new study by the University of Michigan suggests that improvisational theater training can reduce fearfulness and anxiety among teens struggling with social interactions. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm sorry, teens. Science is out to get you.
You're really not an improv fan, it sounds like.
Do you know what the thing is? I actually am an improv fan, and I did some improv, as you do when you're in any sort of performance, you do that. I was never great at it. There's so much, never really great at it. I couldn't make up the songs. I couldn't do, whose line is it anyway? Is aspirational, theater for me. I love that.
Yeah.
They're so good.
They are amazing. And I've met Ryan Stiles, by the way. He eats breakfast at a place called Good Cheerful in Bellingham, Washington. I could keep talking about this for a while.
Wow. You're a hero.
To go back to the study real quick. You're amazing. Nearly 200. It took place in Detroit, and they had 270 high school and middle school students did a 10-week school improvisational theater program offered by, the Detroit Creativity Project. And afterwards, the training, they said they led to increased confidence in social skills, ability to figure out how to achieve goals, and more importantly, greater willingness to make mistakes. And I like that because the idea in high school or middle school that I remember is just do whatever is the least embarrassing thing.
That's right. Stay under the radar.
As much as possible.
Right.
Exactly. So that's good news. I like the idea that it's not just medication all the time, that sometimes instead of pills, you can take suggestions from the audience. I think maybe that's a good step in the right direction. How's that song coming, Pete?
I'm anxious because, God, I really want to be the guy who can come up with a song about elephants and Thousand Island dressing.
Oh, no, you can't. I mean, I purposefully picked terrible suggestions. Yeah, so you're not supposed to be able to do that.
I'm going to be thinking about that all day.
No one's expecting you to do that. Oh, no.
All day.
I've ruined you.
I got the letter that you left in my mailbox. Sometimes love ain't meant to last forever. It turns me back into the stone man I was reborn.
Welcome to What's That Smell? A sometimes funny podcast about humans and their anxieties. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III.
And every week we each drag one of our deepest, darkest anxieties into the light to share it, learn about it,
and hopefully laugh about it with all of you.
Reach out. Send us the story of your anxiety to somethingstinky at whatsthatsmell.net. It doesn't have to be a big one. It can be a little niggly one. It can be the thing that makes you throw up on the street, like roadkill, or it can be something that just you feel when you leave your keys, lock your keys in the car. Whatever it is, just big or small, funny or not, we're going to find a way to help you laugh about it with us.
Yeah.
Something
Maybe
stinky.
You lock your roadkill in the car.
Maybe you do. Something stinky at whatsthatsmell.net. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, Tommy, I will go first.
And letting you go.
I have an admission for you, Tommy. I am woefully disorganized in my preparation for my segment this week. And I would like to say that's because I ran out of time. Like I'm a busy person and I was too busy in meetings. I was meeting the crap out of things and I just ran out of time. That's not true. I had plenty of time to prep, but the anxiety itself conjured such feelings in me that it was hard to approach this one.
Oh, that has happened to me before. Sure.
Yeah.
Approach avoidance. Yeah.
It's grim. I'm going to start with a story. that involves animals. But this anxiety is not about animals.
Oh.
Okay, let me see. Whew, shake it off.
Oh.
It was about, I would say probably, 15, it was probably 17 years ago. I had just moved into my house, my current house with my wife, and we did not have kids, and we just were here. It was just us in the house, all is well.
Okay.
And we'd lived here for a couple of years, and or maybe a year and a half, something like that. We're kind of getting the swing of what the house is like, right? And the sounds that the house makes. Houses make sounds. You know that.
Sure. Creaks,
yeah. And the house actually makes different sounds at night. Do you notice that? Are you familiar with that?
No. I'm not sure if I do. I feel that that's a trope that I've seen a lot, but I don't know if that happens to me that much.
Well, that's that you are fixed in a way that I am not. Then I am convinced that my house does make different sounds at night, and the sounds that it makes are, they're other people in my house. It sounds like there are other people in my house.
Oh, see, I live in an apartment also, and there's always the equivalent of people.
Oh, they're actually in your living room, and that's okay. Yeah, because that's apartments.
So maybe I'm just used to it. Yeah. Okay. So you actually do that thing where you feel that someone's downstairs?
Oh yeah. And it was, because this was my first house. I had lived in an apartment for many years prior to this house. I lived in the house, and I wasn't sure what to expect, and so it took me a long time to get adjusted to the sounds of the house at night. It just was very difficult to do. And then one night, I hear out of my sleep a massive shattering of glass in my living room. We have a big sort of loft upstairs, and downstairs of the living room is just shattering glass. It sounded like a 300-pound human had thrown themselves through our giant bay window plate glass window. Like, it really sounded like somebody had just leapt through our front window.
Sure.
I race out into the hallway, and I look over the edge, and the only thing I have to protect myself is a back massager. It's like a metal rod that spins. You like sit up on somebody and you roll it up and down their spine, and apparently has magnets in it, magnet roller thing.
Do you keep that by you as like a protective device, or that was just the first thing you happened to grab?
No, it's definitely there as a protective device, especially now. And so
that's your baseball bat?
Yeah, that's my baseball bat. And so I could, because I'm going to be stressed after an event like this, so I'm going to need a rollout.
Oh, that's
You're going to have to roll me out. I want to be,
sure.
It's efficiency. So I look down over the edge, and it turns out it wasn't a 300-pound human. It was my 6-pound cat who was chasing something and jumped from the top loft onto the chandelier that hung over the front door, and she apparently jumped onto it, and her weight pulled it right out of the drywall in the ceiling, and it shattered all over the floor. So she was sitting down there amongst the glass, licking her paws, and then she scampered away like a jerk.
Yeah,
cat. Well, I say all that story because that obviously, you can imagine that has an impact.
Sure.
Right? That has an impact on what your experience, and that I was already somebody who was anxious about the sounds in my house at night, as if there are other people in the house, and then this glass shattering and adrenaline and, oh my goodness, protective instincts. Suddenly, I'm a guy that has home invasion anxieties.
Oh. Wow. Home invasion anxiety. I've never had that, but you are not alone already. I can say that I have a number of friends that have had that when they've moved into houses. The fact that I live in an apartment, maybe I have this artifice of there's another step, or they're the odds that they'll pick an apartment before they get to mine. I'm not exactly sure. I've never actually had that. But what's slightly also interesting about that is that this was pre-kid. I would wonder if that's the kind of thing that would kick in once you had kids.
Well, it kicks into overdrive. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
It is definitely an overdrive kind of a thing. But I was still, we were still pretty newly married, and I was, very much in protective mode. And now I realize that, my wife she's pretty buff. She's going to take care of me.
Oh.
That's what I count on. I got bad knees now, so I really should put the back massager on her side of the bed.
On her side of the bed.
Yeah.
I was about to say that. Yeah, you just have the back scratcher now.
I say that. I know she's listening to this at some point, and I know, honey, you and I both know this is true. This is accurate representation of our relationship. Good luck. I got your back. And you know what's on my side is like a lap desk with a soft pillow underneath it. You know, a lap desk. So I have this thing about, home invasion. I think about this all the time, and it doesn't help the kinds of media that I take in, right? The books that I read. The books I read have a lot of this. For some reason, this is a big thing in the cultural gestalt of fear. Thrillers are very much built around this idea that someone is outside your house, someone is watching your house, you're always being cased. We talked a little bit about this last season with the idea that someone's watching me. I'm telling you, when I read Thomas Harris's Red Dragon. Do you remember that?
Oh, right.
Let me tell you, that is, first of all, one of the best straight up thrillers ever written. I mean, it is just great page turning. And also the fact that, he was casing houses and he would set up in the trees and he would watch them for days and he'd invade and, do horrific things inside the house.
Right.
That really stuck with me, the whole concept of that somebody's always watching. So I'm very concerned about keeping the blinds down and all that. I don't want people watching, and casing me. I don't want them to know which room I'm in. Ugh.
Because you're afraid that kind of transparency would lead to a potential attack.
Yes. Well, surely it exacerbates the fiction in my head. Surely it does.
Sure.
Yeah.
This also gets into a little bit of what we talked about last season in catastrophic thinking.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
That worst case Liam Neeson-itis situation. Well, what do you do with that? I mean, does it make you try to be more prepared? I mean, obviously not. You're using a back massager. You haven't really stepped up your game.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, right. I'm doing it wrong for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
not even
I have
a
all
fireplace
the feelings.
poker.
I have all the right feelings and none of the right prep. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely sit back and watch YouTube home invasion videos. I do a lot of that.
What are those?
They're terrible. You can get on and just search for home invasion caught on video. We live in the age of the nanny cam. And so it's pretty easy to find these kinds of videos that will really stretch the levels of your anxiety, truly, to new heights, the kinds of things that happen. But then the whole reason we do this show is to try to, is it real? I got to wrap my head around the fact that is this a real thing? Do I really have something to be scared about?
Can I ask you a question before you go into the actual facts?
Well, I hope you will.
What is your anxiety level of someone breaking into your house when you're not there? When the house is empty, is that equal, or is it really you're talking about this smash and grab where you guys are put in actual physical harm?
Yeah, it's definitely the physical harm part. It's the
just
confrontational part. Yeah. I would say that my level of anxiety of somebody breaking into the house and taking stuff while I'm gone is about the same as, coming back to find that there was a fire in my house while we were gone. Right. It would be a crushing thing, and whatever they took would be, I'm sure a challenge. I've had something, important to me stolen in the past in a weird way. And I can really resonate with that feeling, that experience. But, as long as everybody's safe, that's okay. I'm okay.
Okay. So it's not about stuff. It's really just about personal danger. My hope is that, because that home invasion thing, it seems sort of like an old idea of weird drugged out hippies just walking through, and every day is the movie The Strangers. I would think most criminals would case an empty house, but that's just my thinking. That's my hope.
Well, I'm glad to be able to say that you are generally in the right direction.
Please tell me.
That's not a bad place to start. As it happens, the U.S. Department of Justice, they have a whole office that is dedicated to justice statistics, the Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice Statistics. And they produce these regular reports, these special reports on national crime victimization. They do all they have reports on down to zip codes. You know, they'll tell you the stats of crime. And we know that, you know, sometimes it's hard to get accurate stats, and sometimes Congress doesn't fund our, you know, policing well enough to get accurate stats, but we have an idea of the general trajectory of these kinds of activities. And they report that an estimated 3.7 million household burglaries occurred each year on average from 2003 to 2007. So it's fairly dated, but this is the most recent that I could find. In 28% of these burglaries, a household member was present during the burglary, right? And in 7% of those burglaries, a household member experienced some form of violent victimization, right? So percents of percents here is what we're talking about. And sure, if you're in that 7%, that's not a great place to be. But when we're looking at the overall statistic of under 1 million household burglaries in this country over 5 years per year, it doesn't happen as much as you'd think. So let's talk briefly then about burglary. They've actually revised the definition of burglary, which is strange. According to what they have the National Crime Victimization Survey, burglary has always been classified as a property crime, except when someone is home during the burglary and the whoever was home is attacked or threatened. So
then what is it?
When someone is home and experiences violence, they categorize that victimization as a personal rather than property crime. So it is like a rape or sexual assault, or robbery is the sort of alternate word. If somebody's home and yet the criminal comes in and takes stuff and doesn't actually victimize the person, if they're home, it's still a robbery, or aggravated versus simple assault. So I'm not a police officer, but this is what I've been able to pull out. This is to be in contrast to a property crime, which is just like when nobody's home, you just come in, you take a bunch of stuff, take a car, whatever, motor vehicle theft. So we're talking about burglaries in which a household member was home and was potentially a victim of a violent crime.
Well, that seems very small, but does that help you, or are you convinced you're the 7%?
No, it actually does help me. And we can go even further than that, right? A household member was present in roughly 1 million burglaries over the course of this 5 years, and became a victim of a violent crime in 266,560 burglaries. That's not very many, right? In the scope of things. And when you start drilling down by zip code, I have precious little to worry about. And then 2 years ago, we're in New York on vacation, and
this is a real story?
This is a real story. We're at home on vacation, and we get a call from our neighbors who are watching our house saying, if you see any news or you see pictures of police cars in the cul-de-sac, it's because there was a home invasion in the house across the street from you, and they came in, they tied up the grandparents and held them hostage while the criminals looked for cash. Apparently, they had been cased because the elderly couple that lived there, was of Indian origin, and the criminals believed, and I don't know if this is true, but the criminals believed that culturally, Indian folks are more likely to keep cash like in their mattresses, like they don't trust banks or something like that. And so that they were being, in our neighborhood, they were being cased. And going in, and that was across the street from my house. So that doesn't help. Right?
That stuff's got to be so insidious for the entire neighborhood.
Truly damaging. It's truly damaging. So it doesn't help the fear. It doesn't help the anxiety. But again, I go back to these statistics and percent of a percent. This does not happen all that often. You are absolutely right. These households residing in single family units and higher density structures of 10 or more units are the least likely to be burglarized. While a household member is present, generally it's going to be a smaller property or a higher density property. Serious injury accounts for 9%. Minor injury accounts for 36% of injuries sustained by household members who were home and experienced violence. Again, percent of a percent. Not great if you're in that
Sure.
margin, but it still happens.
But if you're just trying to manage your anxiety, then you can hopefully take some solace from that. Yeah.
Why do you think you don't have a particular feeling about this? Like you didn't grow up with it, or now you say you live in an apartment. Like you're in LA, man. Isn't that like the hotbed of this stuff?
That's a really good question. And I read a ton of horror fiction and watch horror films that are all about this stuff. So I don't know. If I had a guess, I weirdly don't suffer from catastrophic thinking. I actually suffer, I don't know, what would you call the opposite of catastrophic thinking?
Yeah, it's like magical thinking.
Magical, yeah, cupcake thinking.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah, right.
It's cupcake thinking. And that something that horrible won't happen to me, I think because, and this is both a blessing and a curse, is I'm busy enough dealing with such constant low-level anxiety about things all the time. I don't have room for that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have room for like, and what if Foster lit on fire and learned how to shoot a gun? Like, I got enough about what I just said to my neighbor that is going around and around in my head because, like, I think when I was like passing her in the hallway, I think I said, love you, because I say that too much. Like, I have enough Brian Regan style dumbness in my life that I just don't have room for. And then what about a gun? So that's my best guess.
What do I know? The UPS driver dropped off a package and I blew him a kiss. I don't know.
Exactly. And I chased after him, still blowing kisses. Like, I really, that's my only guess, is like I have enough sort of simmering stuff that I don't really have time for big flights of fancy. If it makes you feel any better, I know that you've really cornered the market on self-defense through massagers, but have you ever thought about like home aloneing your house? Like really like paint cans, bowling ball. I don't remember all the stuff, but like really comically like booby trap your entire place.
Tom, I think you're really onto something, but I wouldn't go full Home Alone in the way that Macaulay Culkin did it, because A, he's done it once and you can only go to that well once.
Yeah.
I think that you and I should start a new business, and that is how do you home alone your house using only self-care products?
So there's just all sorts of back scratchers and like magic chairs and all this stuff. And the best part is every night your goddamn cat goes through and ruins all of it.
She like licks up all the lotion that you spread on the floor.
Exactly.
And
everything.
Yeah, the works. This is great. I'm very excited we went down this particular path.
And I just bought the website. We're in. Pete, today's regret actually happened yesterday, and I'm still suffering from anxiety from it. I had a bunch of errands to run, and so I walked Foster, and I skipped taking a shower because I was just, again, running some errands. So I just put on a hat and left, and I went to IKEA and got a new bookshelf because I'm single, and I went to the grocery store to pick up dinner for the week. I was bopping all around town. Much later in the day, around 3 p.m., I stopped in the restroom of a store, and I was washing my hands, and that's when I glanced at myself in the mirror. I'd never put on a hat. I was just out there with my crazy bed hair, and I legitimately looked like a homeless person. I just didn't notice. In my head, I had put on a hat, and instead, I was just walking around with crazy hair. How many people saw me, Pete?
A lot of people.
How many people saw me, Pete? That's regretful.
All the people. But let me ask you this. From then on out, whenever you saw somebody, did you apologize for your head?
I just put a bag over my head from IKEA.
It's that thing. And those bags are huge.
Oh, my God. It was just like a raincoat. It was wonderful.
Something you won't regret, Tom, is visiting our sponsor, audibletrial.com/scent of a podcast. And when you go there, when you visit audibletrial.com/scent of a podcast, you can be comforted knowing two things. The first thing is you are supporting this show. You are supporting Tom's hair care regimen. Clearly, we need all the help we can get.
Oh, yeah.
You're supporting us, the costs that go into hosting this show, and you're putting food in our children's mouths
episodes.
by supporting this show. All you have to do is sign up for a free account at audibletrial.com/scent of a podcast, and you will get a free credit to download whatever audiobook you want. Have you ever tried audiobooks? If you haven't, you need to try audiobooks. They're amazing. I am personally reading Red Sparrow right now. Are you doing, have you done Red Sparrow?
Is that the same movie that what's her name?
Hunger Games.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah. J-Law, Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, right. Co-starring Jennifer Jason Leigh. Yes, no, I saw the movie, and I'd be interested in reading that book. I mean, listening to it. How is it?
It's fantastic. It's a real, I want to say page turner, but that's not right, because it's an audiobook. The book I'm going to actually recommend, though, is, of course, Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. In Red Dragon, you'll hear the story of young Francis Dollarhide and his journey to become the Tooth Fairy. It's kind of a superhero origin story if your superhero is
made of nightmares.
Made of nightmares. That's exactly right.
Yes.
So Red Dragon is a fantastic thriller. It's 12 hours and 6 minutes long.
Oof.
And you could have it for free. And the best part is, if you quit Audible, you decide you don't like it, you get to keep the book. That's it. You keep the book.
Dynamite.
Thanks, Audible.
Thanks, Audible. Pete, we've tackled some heavy stuff on this Sometimes Funny podcast. Why, just moments ago, we did a deep dive into home invasions. So, sometimes funny, folks. Anyways, I wanted to, we're nicely timed because mine is kind of the exact opposite of a home invasion.
It's just criminals that come to your house and bring you cakes. They bring you stuff.
It's like a criminal potluck. Exactly. No, this is every once in a while. I think it's a good time to ease up a bit and just cover something that's seemingly mundane, but is actually very relatable. We have a listener submission.
Listener submission.
Listener. This comes from a longtime fan of the show, and said fan has been asked to be called Teely.
Oh, that sounds like an elf.
Teely?
Kind of a name. Like, I feel like I'm straight out of, or maybe
it is Shirish.
It's a Shirish thing. Yeah. Teely and Gimli and who's it and what's it?
If it helps, he's the size of 19 hobbits standing on top of each other. He's a very, very tall, very handsome person.
Excellent.
Teely has anxiety in restaurants. Not all the time, but in specific occasions revolving around the bill. The bill, the worst.
Oh.
Now, I assumed that when he was talking about it, he would immediately start talking about when he was on a date. No, he always wants to pick up the check when he's on a date. That's just how he was brought up, so no problem there. And when he's with a group, he always wants to pay his fair share. No problem. But here's where it becomes difficult, is when he knows someone else is going to be picking up the check, he says he never knows how to order. And he's kind of anxious the entire time. And I thought this was really interesting. As an example he gave, he and his coworkers were recently taken out to lunch by their boss, who told them to get whatever you want. It's a celebration. And Teely said this was really rough for him because he doesn't know where that sweet spot is between where he can get what he wants or would normally get, but he really doesn't want to appear greedy. He wants to seem thankful. So if he was paying, he'd get like a drink or a side of fries or something. But if someone else is paying, now he's just second guessing himself. It's just water, no side dish. So ironically, someone wanting to give a gift to Teely causes him to order a meal he doesn't even want and doesn't enjoy. In this way, and this is my words, it's like the gift of the Magi, but with jalapeno poppers? Right. I don't know if that works.
Right. No, I'll take the Kobe steak, please.
Yeah, exactly. So to sum up, he's always nervous about ordering too much when someone else is paying, and that makes him dread the entire experience, which is supposed to be a happy experience. I can kind of relate to this. Pete, how about you?
Yeah, I can totally relate to this. It's one of those things that I know there is a solid rule for this. There's got to be a solid rule for this, like an etiquette tip. When someone else is doing this, there has to be a way to know. Like, and I'm sure it also involves some complicated menu math. Like, you look at the menu and you take an average of the most expensive and the least expensive, and then you divide by 6 and then add 7.
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll get to something that you can actually show as a responsible choice.
Your wedge salad is worth 2 garden salads.
Yeah.
Like everything is on this sort of sliding scale.
My boss did this for me, Tom, and it was, we'd finished a big project, and he says, like, you did a great job. And as a way to thank you, I want you to go take your wife out to dinner and bring me the receipt.
Oh, that's such a trap.
Uh-huh.
That's the worst because, that is actually diabolical. Because I have some tips that based on what I personally do, and then I found another one that I thought was interesting, but both are very much involved with that person being in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. So that's just, what did you do? Did you just have a water sandwich?
Do you know what? It sucks because you go in and you think, okay, and I was young at the time and I was very conscious of these things. If it was now, I'd say like, okay, that's on you, man. That is your mistake. I'm going out to dinner and I'm getting the whole bottle of wine and I'm going all in. And if there's a way to have my plate topped with exotic sea urchins, no matter what it is, I'm going all in. Thank you for celebrating me.
And this is so weird because you were just at a Cracker Barrel. Right. So I don't know why you thought all these things would happen.
But at the time, we ordered drinks and probably didn't include those when on the receipt, like maybe made a separate transaction. Like we actually were conscious of what we would, that I would be paying for a little bit of this because everything else seemed extravagant.
Right.
And I am sure that was not his intention. And he told me years later, he said, when I did that to you because someone did it for me. And my intention was to really pay the whole bill. Like it was a gift.
Fine with it.
He was fine with it.
Sure.
But I couldn't take it that way. It caused me a great deal of anxiety.
Oh, yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's real. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Of like, just surprise me. Gross.
That's right.
In that situation, I have no help for you. I would have done the exact same thing. I probably would have had a normal dinner and then told her, I'm so sorry. Can you take some of this stuff off?
Yeah. Right.
What I usually do, this is, and the only reason I'm able to talk about this from firsthand is because this has given me anxiety in the past, is I just follow the lead of the host.
Yeah. Whatever they order, don't order anything more expensive than that.
Exactly. Does she or he get a beer? Then beer's on the table.
Yeah.
Same with sides. Try and plan what you'd ideally like in, if you had your druthers, and then somehow make sure that the host orders first.
Just make sure you order exactly the same thing as the host, because that's not weird.
That's not creepy. Just get a really long fork and just take bites off of their plate. And like weirdly, Archie comics like share a malt
just look at
with like 2 straws
and say, make sure the host goes first, and then all you have to say is just bring me a plate and an extra fork.
Right.
Then don't anything else. Don't say anything else.
Yeah,
it's implied.
As if you're making a euphemism. Go, I'll have what she's having, but you mean it literally. You're not ordering an orgasm. You just want whatever she's having because you're filled with anxiety. Exactly.
We nailed this one.
Tom. One other tip that I found at quickanddirtytips.com. I don't think I read that out loud. Quickanddirtytips.com.
That sounds like a terrible resource.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, either way, let's say Quora. I found this on Quora. Suggests that when it's all wrapping up, order whatever you want, and when it's wrapping up, offer to buy dessert or to pay the tip. You will almost always get turned down because they don't want to undercut their own generosity, but the offer goes a long way. You get credit for that. I've never thought of that. That's a cool idea.
Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Thinking about this actually brought up another scenario that I've gone through that used to give me anxiety. What when you go out like with a bunch of friends and you're all at a big table and you just have a salad, but they stake it up and have bottles of wine and all this. And because they've had wine, one of them suggests that everyone just split the bill evenly. So easy. Just split the bill evenly. And you don't want to be a Scrooge, but you honestly had so much less than everyone else. That can be anxiety producing. I assume this is relatable.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, this is big.
For me, and this is very much, I'm speaking from a place of certain privilege, I've decided that $15, like an extra $15 that I shouldn't have to spend is better to do. I choose to just split the bill evenly. That the not bringing it up and just the morale of the table, if that's what everyone has decided they want to do, then I will just sort of pitch in and not think about it again. What do you do?
Well, I feel like the etiquette that I have been taught is that splitting the bill evenly is like, I don't do that all that often. That it's actually, it's when like single diners, if you're not there as a couple, if you're just going yourself, you pay for yourself, right? And if you go as a couple, then you pay as a couple, and you guys work it out yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And so each party
That's totally
pays
how that
for
works.
themselves.
I've never really thought, like, at some point when you're an adult, that just becomes the norm.
Yeah, that's kind of my experience. But I do have we used to truck with a group that were like really into, you know, trying out the latest and greatest Portland cuisine,
Drugs.
right? Like they yes. And so they had this like, oh yes, we'll just, you know, we'll pay by the party, you know, we'll just split evenly by party. So if four couples go out and the bill comes, you pay for a quarter of the whole bill. And I don't know. This always bugged me because I don't have as sort of haute cuisine tastes as they do. So they're going to restaurants where it's not like $15 a plate. It's like $40, $50, $60 a plate.
I like that I just totally outed myself of what kind of restaurant that I'm going to Cracker Barrel.
Right. I mean, I'm totally willing to pay, you know, when we go to Taco Bell, but come on, like how many tacos can you eat? So I tend to feel a little bit burned when we go to those kinds of restaurants because I don't tend to spend that kind of money on restaurant food. I don't see as much value in it. I do like a fine meal. I appreciate good food. I would prefer to make it if we're going to eat that kind of food. Like I'd prefer that experience. So I have real trouble with that. And so, you know, I've always felt burned when we go to really nice restaurants and I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat a nice Caesar and a nice tea and I'm going to feel good about that. And then I end up with a $60 bill.
Have you ever wanted to say, instead of just splitting evenly by couple, that you would just like to pay for what you and your wife ordered?
Totally. We totally want to say that, but you just don't. Like, I'm not the kind of person who just says that. I just pay the bill, and and we try to just be super judicious about, you know, when we say, yes, we can make it to these kinds of events. And because it's got to be a special event for us. We aren't made of food money.
Oh, that's interesting. So that actually dictates when you're going to go be That's a way to handle the anxiety. Just abstaining.
Don't go.
Yeah. Get some Blue Apron or something, not a sponsor, and just stay in and watch Roma or something that I'm supposed to watch and
Tom,
never will.
You just get your Blue Apron box or your HelloFresh box, whatever you choose to do. Let them know you heard about it here. And you bring the box to the restaurant.
Oh, and say, can you just whip this up? And apparently it takes exactly 45 minutes.
Is there a boxing fee? Because, you know, that should be a new thing.
Like a corkage fee?
Like a corkage
there's a boxing fee?
But there's a boxage fee.
That's amazing. Oh, I love it. We've started two businesses.
Tom.
Home Alone and Blue Apron, the restaurant.
That will take your Blue Apron box and prepare your meal for you, Tom. God, why are we doing this stupid anxiety show?
All right, everybody, you heard it here first. This is our last episode because we are both rich now.
Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode. Today's tune is Cold Day in Hell by Michael Shines.
Cheer up, Mike. Anyways, coming up next week.
We need a fact checker. That would be awesome.
No, Pete. Each episode will be 1 minute long and the rest will be apologies.
You never know what's going to happen. It could be a pant crapping day.
It is a Tuesday, so I get it. But everything in my core says that I'm being weak and I have to be a big strong boy in my big strong boy pants. Until then, I'm Tommy Metz III.
And I'm Pete Wright. Thank you for downloading. We'll be back next week on What's That Smell?
It'll be a cold day in hell before I let you back into my bed. And it'll be a cold day in hell before these thoughts you fill up my head. And it'll be a cold day in hell letting you go.